All right, in this video, we'll be covering the top 5 mistakes that new tourists make to Costa Rica. If you're new to Costa Rica, some of these mistakes are easy to avoid if you just plan in advance for them. On our first trip to Costa Rica, we realized there was just kind of a dearth of good videos on YouTube helping you think through strategic details for planning a trip to Costa Rica. We decided to combine our love for Costa Rica with our incessant obsession with planning the details of a trip and put together these videos to help you plan the perfect vacation in Costa Rica. So let's get going on the top 5 mistakes that tourists make in Costa Rica. First is not getting the right vehicle. A lot of the roads in Costa Rica are rough. They don't have the same kind of infrastructure that we're used to. So you could be driving along and all of a sudden you're doing a river crossing. Google didn't tell you anything about that ahead of time. Apple Maps doesn't tell you anything about that ahead of time. You're just on your way to the resort and you're gonna cross a river on the way there. Even if you don't end up doing a river crossing, many of the roads, especially in rural areas, are unpaved and are gonna require a high clearance vehicle. If you show up in a Ford Taurus, you are gonna be turning around to go the other direction. Some of the most beautiful spots in Costa Rica, you're not gonna be able to get there with just a standard vehicle. You're gonna need at least high clearance, if not 4-wheel drive. And so my recommendation to you would just be spring for the extra cost, get the high clearance vehicle. That way you don't have to think about it. It's not that much more expensive and it just gives you the peace of mind knowing whatever the roads throw at you during your vacation, you're gonna be able to just go for it and not worry about it. The second mistake tourists often make is what we like to call the excursion distance fail. If the resort that you're staying at offers excursions, or maybe you just get online and look up an excursion company that's gonna pick you up at your hotel and take you to Rio Celeste or Arenal Volcano. What they don't tell you is how long it takes to get from one place to the other. They just tell you, yeah, we'll pick you up, here's the cost, it's gonna be great. They show you the photos. You need to check the distance in advance. So just get on Google Maps, type in the address of your hotel and the place that you're gonna be going to, and just see how long is the ride gonna be on average. Now, Google isn't always 100% accurate. On Costa Rican roads, you never know what you're gonna get. But at least it gives you an idea. Is this place 45 minutes away from my hotel, or is it 3.5 hours away from my hotel? Because the excursion company's not gonna tell you. They'll be happy to take your money and give you a ride over the excursion. Yeah, you'll have a great time, but you may also spend 6 hours in the car that day. So for example, take a look at this excursion from Playa Conchal to Arenal. Here's the excursion they offer, but what they don't tell you is, take a look, a 4-hour drive. The last hour of this is heavily winding road around the lake here. And so just think about that for a second. That is 8 hours in the car on your vacation. 8 hours in a 15-passenger van with a bunch of other people you don't know. Now, we love people. We just don't want to spend our vacation with people we don't know.
I like people, but I like them in short bursts. I don't like people for extended periods of time.
This is actually one of the things you can avoid simply by planning well. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna tell you how you can get our free Costa Rica planning guide. But just be aware, if you're gonna book an excursion, you need to know in advance what the distance is from where you're starting to where the excursion is gonna drop you off, how long that ride is gonna be, because you wanna think through, do I really wanna spend that much time in the car on my vacation? The third common mistake is another way to spend your vacation with strangers, to just not do your research in advance and not think through the different locations and what they're actually gonna be like in real life. The photos that you're gonna see online are all gonna be taken when the sun is just coming out and there's nobody on the beach and it looks exclusive. You imagine yourself out there having the beach to yourself, and then if you haven't done your research in advance, you get there and find out there are 500 other people. Not everything is crowded, but there are some crowded destinations. It's good to be aware of what those places are, like Manuel Antonio, like Tamarindo. If you're gonna go to some of these places, it's just good to know what you're getting yourself into. Sometimes you see the photos and it looks exclusive and the beach looks empty, and then you get there and it's not. There's a lot of people there, especially depending upon the time of year you go. Our recommendation to you would be, go to places that not everyone is going. You're gonna get a more authentic experience and you're gonna spend less time with Chuck and his family. Another helpful tip on this would be just to get onto Google and go to the map location and look at the photos that people have posted. There'll be hundreds, sometimes thousands of photos that people have posted on this location, and look at the location and photos that have been taken there even in the month that you're going to be going. So if you're planning on going in August, scroll back over the years and look at photos that have been posted in the month of August and see, what's this beach going to be like? What's this location going to be like in the month of August? Another good thing to be aware of is just going first thing in the morning is going to give you exclusive access a lot of the time. In most places, they'll open around 8 or 9 a.m. and the excursion vans bringing all the tourists in don't get there until 10. And so if you show up at 8 a.m., it's likely, a lot more likely, that you're gonna have the place to yourself for a couple hours before the mob scene shows up. Our experience at Místico Hanging Bridges near Arenal Volcano, we showed up at 8 o'clock in the morning. When you get on their website, you can choose the time that you're gonna be there, pick your ticket time. We had the place to ourselves, and in fact, we were the first people at 8 a.m. to walk into the rainforest and go across the hanging bridges, and we never saw another soul the whole time. I mean, it genuinely felt like we had the entire rainforest to ourselves. So we were there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and around 9:30, 10 o'clock, we were finishing up and heading out, and as we were leaving the parking lot, there was just van after van and bus after bus pulling up and unloading hundreds of people into the gates. And so
I feel like normally there's like a weight or person limit on these things, but I'd say we have 50 right now.
Showing up early is a really good way to get somewhat private, exclusive access to the locations. Another mistake that tourists often make on their first trip to Costa Rica is just expecting everything to be cheap. The reality is that some of the things are more expensive, especially in the more touristy areas. We saw a place that was $80 a person for breakfast. And so just be aware that you want to look ahead of time. You want to look in advance at some of the places that you're planning on going and see what the prices are. Even if you're planning on going to a restaurant, take a look at their menu online and do the conversion from colones to dollars, and think through how much this is going to cost before you just show up and expect everything to be inexpensive. As we think about the top 5 mistakes tourists often make on their first trip to Costa Rica, the 5th is not doing enough research ahead of time. It's easy to feel like, yeah, I bought my plane tickets, we got our hotel, and now we'll just show up and we'll figure the rest out along the way. Not a fantastic way to do things, because what happens is you get there and you realize you don't know where you're going, you don't know what you're doing, and you end up finding things out along the way that you wish you would have known ahead of time. I'm not just talking about weather and local customs. I'm talking about taxes and fees that you didn't think of, the car insurance thing, how your iPhone is gonna work when you touch down on the plane at the airport in Costa Rica, visa entry confusion, rental car issues. You need to have done your research and know what you're doing in advance before you get there. That's just gonna make your whole trip go that much smoother. So maybe that's your jam. Maybe you like to fly by the seat of your pants. Go for it. Our advice to you would be to do your research, plan in advance, know where you're going, how you're gonna get there. So we put together a Costa Rica planning guide that would help you think through just kind of planning the details of your trip, making sure you have all of those things. And I'll put a link in the description that's gonna help you to make sure you have everything in order, have your trip ready and dialed in so that you can go and enjoy yourself and not worry about a thing, having done all of your research ahead of time. And if this is your first trip to Costa Rica, I'd encourage you to check out this video, planning your first trip to Costa Rica. It's gonna really give you a jump start on your research, really give you a jump start on some of the things that you need to think through. Have a great trip.